prediction this week is going to end up being that the Shazier injury is going to end up leaning someone into retiring this offseason with like a big name that's not ready to retire.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about you pussies and freaking out about the hits on Thursday night. I can't wait.
People are finally going to wake up and realize that this is a stupid game.
When I was saving it, I can't wait. You're fucking all idiots. Is what happens.
All right then. Let's get loaded. Well, guess what, Eminem? We're coming in, so welcome to the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first, because we finish last.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the Loaded Box Podcast. I am Ben Morgan, and that is DJ Primo slamming home a Miller Lite to kick off the show.
Let's go, Blake.
This is our Week 14 preview podcast. Let's bleed into some talk, because you want to yell at me for being a little sissy when it comes to big hits.
Not just you, but all you fucking pussies out there. I don't get how all of a sudden, look, the NFL's really physical. Their guys hitting each other as hard as they can. I'm going to be grossed out by every disgusting hit. We've been watching this for 30 years, you and I. Most of you have been watching it for 20 to 50 years, however long you've been listening.
Nice demographic.
What?
Nice demographic.
Yeah, I'd say 20 to 50 is a pretty good one for us.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. You used to watch guys just get murdered all the time, and now, like, you see a guy get hit, they're like, oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah,
When did you guys think the game was going to get saved? No matter what, these guys are running at each other as hard as they possibly can and hitting each other no matter what in their heads. I was a football player back in my day. I don't know. Yeah, I know you're kind of a pussy, so you're on the other side of it. For that reason, you didn't play football.
No one cares about you and your personal story. What it comes down to is we know we know more now than we ever did.
Information changes. Like, that's what I'm saying. Information changes your thoughts on these people getting smoked. They're always going to get hit. It's not going to change. Just because they're putting rules into play and make it safer doesn't mean they're going to stop killing each other.
Right.
Every time we try to go and hit someone, they try to go and hit someone, they're trying to hurt them at that point in their head. And they'll say that they're not, but when I'm trying to hit somebody, when they're trying to hit somebody, they're trying to hit them as hard as they fucking can in that moment. That's just what's going through your brain, man.
Can I talk?
That's NFL. That's why it's so goddamn popular. We love sex. We love violence. It's like gladiators.
At the same time.
Yes.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'll fucking own you.
Violent sex.
Second beer.
Okay, we know more than we ever have, and that's what it is. The game, I've let you talk, now it's my turn. The game has been violent, the game will be violent, and the game is going to continue to be violent. That's not the issue. The issue is we know more now, and it's scaring the shit out of people because you understand the long-term consequences of these hits. So yeah, people are getting a little bit squeamish because we understand more now. There's more technology, and there's more technology that makes the game more violent too. Look at these, the shoulder pads, the helmets, like everyone is so aerodynamic now. You're flying, like you said, you're going 100 miles per hour at these people head first. No matter what the technology is that's there to save you, these people aren't human beings. They're freaks, and that's going to hit. And it's the same thing the NFL's been selling. The NFL used to have a show as part of their pregame as Jacked Up. That's what they were selling. You couldn't do that now because we know more. That's the issue. We know more. And it's scary as shit.
The reason that people are like not watching, like less people are watching NFL, is because information's coming out. Everybody's becoming so soft, and everybody's so scared about a big fucking hit. Like, oh man, I can't watch this. This is so disgusting. When I hear John fucking Gruden getting like, oh, this is getting out of control. Like, dude, this is professional football. They are made to hit each other. You're not watching the MMA thinking, oh, he just punched him in the face. That is more violent than the NFL that we're watching. But everybody loves UFC and all that shit. That's what this is.
See, I can justify it because this is what they signed up for. No one's making anyone play football. They're getting paid.
And that's why we love it.
And that's why we love it. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying it's fucking crazy. It's crazy. We're close. And that's why my bold prediction for this week is an off-season prediction that someone with a big name is going to end up retiring before they're ready to retire because they're going to be smarter because they haven't killed quite enough brain cells yet, and they're going to call it quits before they are told that it's called quit. Ryan Shazier is still in the hospital. We're recording this on Wednesday. The dude he hasn't even been out of the hospital yet since that hit.
He's fine. He'll be back in 2 weeks, guaranteed.
He's fine. He couldn't even move his legs.
I guarantee you he's back in 2 weeks.
I guarantee you, he doesn't play again.
No, he'll be back in 2 weeks.
We could spend 40 minutes talking about this because we differ so much, but let's move on to our Pick 6 segment. I'm going to straight up ignore last week. Let's just say that.
No, I did awesome.
Your Embrace the Suck picks for the second straight week went 3-0. I'd like to see someone else at 6-0, so take that.
Yeah, bring it, bitches.
Let's kick off some Week 14. I will go first because I feel like I was right in the concussion debate, so I earned the right to go first today.
Right. You weren't even close. Like, oh,
3 reasons why you need to take the Oakland Raiders +4 at the Kansas City Chiefs. Reason number 1, I am buying into the struggle, meaning the struggle that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Last 7 games, 1-6 straight up, 1-6 against the spread. Losses to the Giants and the Jets in 2 of those 3 weeks. That team is a struggle bus right now. Point 2, this game is a 1.5 too high. If this was Kansas City like -2.5 or -3, I probably wouldn't touch it. But I think this is going to be a close game. So in that close game, if I'm getting more than 3, especially 3.5, I'm going to take the dog. And reason number 3, this was arguably like one of the best games of the season, and it was probably Oakland's best game offensively of the season. They had their most passing yards in the game, over 400. And recently, they've actually been getting it done on the ground. They've had over 100 rushing yards in their last 3 games, and the Chiefs don't stop anybody. I don't know if Oakland straight up wins this one, but I'd be willing to take the chance, especially if I'm getting more than a field goal here.
I cannot comment on this game right now.
Fair enough. I'll move on. I have got the New York Jets -1.5 at Denver Broncos. What a shit show. Reason number 1.
-2 for that now, by the way.
Okay, I'll even take the extra half. That's fine with me. I'm changing it as we speak. Okay, -2. Well, reason number 1 is you're not going to watch this game unless you're either a fan or you got money on it. So that's why you're betting on it.
For sure. For sure.
For sure. Reason number 2. We've got an against the spread nightmare here. The Broncos are just 2-9-1 against the spread this entire year. You go back to last year, if you combine last year and this year, their last 16 games, they are 3-12-1 against the line. Straight trash, homie.
Yep.
Reason number 2, the better quarterback. Yeah. Somehow, some way, Josh McCown.
Jokes now.
Yeah, it is. This podcast is a joke.
Yeah, fucking jokes.
Josh McCown is the better quarterback in an NFL game. And the thing I looked into this a little bit, Josh McCown's actually playing decent. He's got 18 passing touchdowns this year and only 8 interceptions. Say that again?
I just burped and said that's what I think about Josh McCown.
That's fairly accurate. You don't want him on your team, but you'll bet against him against Trevor Siemian. Siemian has more interceptions than touchdowns this year. 11-13 is the ratio there. This year, McCown has more passing touchdowns than Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Dak Prescott, Cam Newton, Derek Carr, and several others with not quite as high of names. But that is a crazy list. I can't believe he has more than them. And reason number 3 is just straight up the motivation factor. Somehow the Jets are still technically playing for something. Broncos are done. I got to witness it in that Dolphins game last week. I will bet against the Broncos every single week if that number is even realistic. The Jets somehow are motivated to keep winning, so I think they get it done here on the road.
All right, I actually took the New York Jets -2 at Denver as well. And my reason was, to me, it doesn't make sense because they're playing at Denver, and people, I feel like, are just going to jump. Like, you see the New York Jets -2 on the road, just naturally our brains tell us pick against the Jets. That doesn't fucking make any sense.
Right.
So it just doesn't make any sense. It's, a couple of shitty teams. The Jets are still shitty. They won a lot of games, but they're still shitty. That's what they are. Denver's really bad as well. But you think their defense could at least make this game close and give them the potential to win? But Vegas is telling us otherwise. First thing I thought, I was like, wait, how am I getting Denver +2? And then I recalibrated. I gave, wait, that's my gut reaction. My gut reaction was take Denver because it doesn't make sense So I'm taking the Jets.
Nice. As I said on Twitter last week, if we're both on the same game, sprint the other way as fast as possible. So the Broncos is the play, folks. My third game is the Philadelphia Eagles plus 2.5 at the LA Rams. Reason number one is this is an overreaction to a loss. Public is going to see the Eagles losing somewhat big, prime time to Seattle. They're going to think that it's a reflection of what's to come, and they're going to overreact. And I think that's one of the main reasons Philly's even favored in this game. Reason number two, lack of home field advantage. Rams are playing in a tiny stadium. They don't really have the most loyal fans. And while they're 6-1 on the road, they're actually only 3-2 at home. So a winning record, but it's not like they're just taking advantage of being in LA. And finally, number three, Vegas Killers. The Eagles are 8-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 9. And before that last week game against the Seahawks, Philly has scored at least 26 points in all but one game. So I really think that Seahawks game was fluky. I think the Eagles get back to their scoring ways. I think they're going to win this one. And I think they're going to win outright. So if you're getting if you're getting 2.5 points, I'm all about the Eagles here.
I hit on this in again, I'm not going to comment because I hit on this in my bold prediction, so I'll get back to that one.
All right, so you already got one of your pick six done. Let's go on to your second one.
Here we go. I've got San Fran plus 3 at Houston. Houston isn't good, and I think it's Jimmy Garoppolo time. I think he's going to come out flaming, and I'm also, I was going to talk about him. When looking at FanDuel, I was considering him as my sleeper stack of the week. I decided not to.
He's not a bad pick this week.
Considering him with Marquise Goodwin, I think that would be a good option.
Bargain.
I'm backing off of it, but it would be a good week if you want to use something because they're in Houston, in a dome, on a fast track, and Marquise Goodwin is probably the fastest guy in the NFL.
Yep.
So that's definitely an option. And he's just been burning people this year. So that's an option. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo will score this week. I think he does have a big week, another two. I know, just a bunch of field goals is how they
I like it. We're not kicking field goals this week, damn it.
It's just really bad. I think San Francisco improves. They don't want to win, but they will win on the back of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he has a big week.
Yep, costly win for the 49ers. I agree.
Yeah.
What's your third one?
I already did the Jets, so I got Arizona. Oh, fuck, I didn't write notes on this.
This is funny because your third one is Arizona plus 3. I was going to do a bonus pick, but I'm a little cold, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. I was going to take the Titans here, so I want to hear why you want the Cardinals.
I got Arizona plus 3 versus Tennessee at home. I've got a home dog. Tennessee playing like the worst goddamn team in the NFL, almost losing to the Colts, almost losing to the fucking Texans. Both really bad teams. Looking just anemic offensively. Maybe one of the worst-looking 8-4 teams I've ever seen in my entire life. Is that their record?
Yeah, it's not pretty.
It's the ugliest wins I've ever seen. Jacksonville's not good, but their defense is fucking... I mean, Jacksonville's offense ain't good, but they can run the ball. Their defense is sick. And Blake Bortles can do... I almost feel like Blake Bortles and Marcus Mariota are on the same level of quarterback, and I never thought I'd say that.
Right now they are, for sure.
It's not really fucking good. I don't know why I keep saying 8. I don't know what's wrong with me. But Blaine Gabbert has been playing better than what has been expected. Arizona's defense is bouncing back. I'm getting them at home. This is the shitty game that Tennessee loses.
So in my mind, this is the game they're gonna have to win in order to propel to winning that division. Since I do have them winning the division, I like this game. Since it's under 3.5, that's why I like the Titans. I just think they're going to have to turn it on at some point. And Arizona, they are what they are. I don't have a stat for this. It's a feeling. This is a feeling for me.
Yeah, apparently.
All right, we teased your Embrace the Suck picks 2-0 or 6-0 the last 2 weeks. For any new listeners, if you're checking this out for the first time, DJ's picks, both of our picks have not been quite as good as last year against the spread. I'll own up to it.
Nope.
But DJ has been super cold. So what we've been doing is a little segment called Embrace the Suck, where DJ just picks 3 random games without any thought, just a random theory behind them. Last 2 weeks, 6-0. What is your Embrace the Suck strategy and picks for this week?
I like this one, and the reason I thought about this one is just because I saw a quick clip of Tupac in the Defiant Ones, which I'm going to watch now because I completely forgot about that show. His introduction, fucking thug life, man. Just gangster shit. Got me all excited. So I went with most penalties per game. Because I want me a bunch of Tupac and Biggies and 50 cents. I want me a bunch of 50-cent guys that I'm going to be betting on that you guys are going to win with. Not a bunch of fucking Drakes and Lil Waynes, just fake pussy-ass bitches, just weak guys in the rap. Like, I'll beat the shit out of Drake. Honestly, I'll do it.
Lil Wayne's tiny, but I'm pretty sure he's killed at least more people than Aaron Hernandez.
These guys have parents. No. Lil Wayne has never killed anyone.
That is true. If you have parents, you're not a thug. Agreed.
No, not parents. Parents that made them famous.
Oh,
I
see what you're saying.
Or were famous earlier in their lifetime. Like, they were set up to be rich. And Drake and Lil Wayne both were.
I like my definition of thug better.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
If you don't have parents.
You're an ass. Then I'm a thug. So,
you're like
we got... most penalties in the league, I'm starting with most to third.
You got to calm down. You're, like, really excited today. Just take a couple deep breaths.
Loud so everybody can hear me as good, because I don't know how good anyone can hear me.
You can talk loud. You can just talk.
Fuck off.
Just slow down.
We got Seattle.
Drink your beer quicker.
Plus 2.5 at Jacksonville. Seattle is leading the league in penalties. I hate Seattle. They're catching 2.5. They're gangsters as fuck. Jacksonville. Take them, I guess.
Nice. You have to. If Embrace the Suck continues its trend, the Seahawks are a bet.
You're going to like this one. Miami. Second leagues in penalties. Plus 11 Monday night versus New England. Money in the bank right there.
Yeah, I think this might be the week that your Embrace the Suck picks catch up to you.
You're already wrong. That's, like, just the fact that you said that makes me know that I'm going to go 3-0 again. And this one went against yours, Kansas City. I didn't want to comment because I took them. -4 versus Oakland.
Oh,
fucking
man.
Third most penalties in the league. Let's get these thugs rolling.
That's funny.
For Christ's sake, Miami's got Ndamukong Suh.
That's a great stat because you think of like penalties and if it influences your record or not. And I don't know if that's a telling stat because Seattle's a good team where they have 8 wins. Miami's kind of garbage. And then Kansas City was good, but now they're kind of garbage. So you have like a good team and 2 medium teams, I guess. I don't even know what you'd want to call them.
You know what shocks me about this? Oakland's not in the top 3. They're always tops in the league in penalties per game.
Yeah, maybe they should start doing that more. Maybe that's what they're missing.
They've got Marshawn Lynch. Their thing has always been to be gangsters fuck. And now they're not. And now they're just not as good. They need to get more penalties.
I think Oakland probably leads the league in meaningful penalties like ejections.
Michael Crabtree's.
Crabtrees and Lynches, basically.
Yeah, but Crabtree's like a known bitch in the league. Like, he gets his ass kicked. He gets his chain ripped off by the biggest gangster. Aqib Talib is Tupac of the NFL.
Probably.
I've always thought this. Like, he is Tupac. Like, he's going to be the guy. He might kill Michael Crabtree. That might happen. Like, if Crabtree dies in the near future, it's Aqib Talib. I guarantee
he's the number one suspect in Crabtree's random mysterious death.
Aqib Talib's definitely killed somebody, and I might be next for just calling it out.
Let's just say allegedly, just to protect you.
Allegedly killed somebody in my... But probably.
Nice. So you got Seattle, Miami, and Kansas City in your Embrace the Suck. I'm excited to see if this works out.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next segment, the Playoff Bucket Challenge. Once again, if you're new to the pod, welcome.
You didn't do my math. Fuck.
What math?
On the Playoff Bucket Challenge.
Playoff Bucket. Oh, shit. Well, look it up real quick while I talk about this.
Oh, I don't know how to do it.
I think I actually know in my head.
Right.
So what we're doing, we're basically, if we think a team is not making the playoffs for sure, we throw them into our bucket. Each week before the week starts, we get the opportunity to throw another team in the bucket, or teams, plural. And at the end of the day, we have points to this, and whoever ends up getting most teams right. So if you end up with a team that's in your bucket that makes the playoffs, you're basically going to be screwed. So it gives you incentive to hold on to them, but there's also point incentives to get rid of them. So this week, I'm trailing DJ. I have 148 points. I believe he has 152. But I can't throw a team in my bucket this week to try to pick up because I looked at my NFC. I still have Philly, Dallas, Minnesota, Detroit, New Orleans, Carolina, Atlanta, and the Rams and Seattle available. That's 9 teams for 6 spots. I feel like I need to make a move here, but I literally can't decide which 1, 2, or 3 of those teams have to go. So I'm going to hold out another week, and then I might make a big push at the end here to try to catch up.
Yeah, I made an easy decision here, so I don't know how many points I'm going to have after this. But I made a decision because I went ahead and I did a little future digging. And I looked at the outcome of this team, and I feel like they're going to at least lose 2 more games, which will put them at 8-8. I'm adding the Dallas Cowboys, 6-6 right now, 2 more losses.
Oh.
They play the Giants, Raiders, Seahawks, and Eagles in the next 4 weeks. They end with the Seahawks and Eagles, probably not a good side. Maybe the Eagles aren't anybody, but I think they lose 2 out of those 4 games. I'm knocking them out of the playoffs. They already lost to Green Bay. So once Rodgers comes out there, finishes the season undefeated, even if they do go 10-6, Green Bay has a tiebreaker in that. I think the other team might be Atlanta. I think the other team might be Atlanta that makes the playoffs in the wild card. I think it's going to be Atlanta and Green Bay. I think Dallas is out.
Green
They
Bay.
put Dallas in the bucket.
Nice. That's a ballsy pick, especially since you have the lead.
Atlanta was the one team that did. Look at this. Atlanta was the one team that beat Green Bay in the wild card race. All the rest have lost to them. It's the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and going to be the Panthers.
So you're tiebreaking.
And the Lions are going to lose to them at the end of the year too.
There you go. Nice. All right. So you recently added the Cowboys to it. That's a bold prediction, but hey, if it pays off, you're probably going to win.
My homework, so.
Nice. A+. DFS
Thanks.
picks, or can we do one of the listener questions for the life advice? Because I really want to get to that.
You can go ahead and do one of those listener pack. The one that you're excited about, the weird one. Who is
Yes.
this guy even?
Oh, I love this guy. This is a great question. This is probably
Where did he come from?
This is the Twitter.
What is that Twitter name? I've never even seen anything like that.
If you want to get your either fantasy football or life advice questions answered by us, I don't know who else you'd want them answered by. All you need to do is follow us on Twitter at LoadedBox and let us know. We'll get you onto the podcast. Probably my favorite ever listener question right here. Is grass-fed butter ever acceptable as personal lubrication? PPR. And best question of all time by adding that PPR. That's a slam dunk. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take this on?
Yeah, you're just in and out on me, so I'm trying to keep up. But I heard almost all. I connected the dots. So are you catching me fully here?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect, because I'm not catching you fully, but I'll go ahead. I gotta say, I like PPR sometimes because you can go ahead and take an average guy and make him great. Like when you're desperate, you can go out there and you can find a guy that you can plug in there. Sometimes you're desperate with your lubrication. You just need to get off, and you need to plug that sleeper in. And if it's grass-fed butter, it's going to be nice and smooth. It's going to stick around for a while.
Natural.
It'll last a little bit longer. It's natural. It'll probably end up blending right in. No shame in your masturbation game. We're all dudes here.
So I kind of went a different direction with this.
Just the 2 of us, I mean.
my instant reaction to this was, yeah, you're probably okay. But then the more I thought about it, I didn't think about this as like a personal, I need lube for myself. I thought about it if you're with a female partner. And I thought about this, and if it comes down to it, you are probably a young guy, you're at a party, you're somewhat drunk, and you need this lubrication. And then it hit me. This is where my yes turned into a no.
This is like super bad.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
They're
Very
well.
well.
Ladies, man, they're good to go.
Exactly what my theory is here. If you're the person in my scenario and you still need lube, whoever this girl is, you don't want her. You don't want her. You might want her in your drunk state of mind. You're going to wake up and you're not going to want her. So with that being said, have no lube in your house and have no butter in your house. You got to take care of both of them. Get them out. You don't want that girl. That's my hot take on this.
Or, since we're like, it could be a thing for a female. What if she wants to pleasure herself with the stick of grass-fed butter?
Man, that's next level.
That might melt, though, so it's going to, like, your pleasure's just going to go away.
Oh, that's
so
going to melt. That's going to melt and break.
Yeah.
And I guess in my head, it was never a stick of butter. It was in a tub.
Yeah, well, whatever. I go with stick here just to help out the ladies.
Nice. Well, I hope that you got something out of that, because that was by far my favorite Twitter question that we've ever got. So let's move on to our daily fantasy talk.
Good. Get your internet working better.
All right. I'm better now.
Okay.
All right. Stack of the week. I have got the Detroit Lions combo of Matt Stafford for $8,000 and Marvin Jones Jr. $7,000. You get the Buccaneers, who are 28th versus the pass. You've got Stafford, who's still averaging over 18 fantasy points per game, despite being under 15 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. However, those last 2 weeks where he struggled against the 2nd and 7th ranked pass defense, so I'm not going to look too much into it. Before those games, the 4 games before that, Stafford was right between 18 and 22 fantasy points per game. So you're going to get some more consistency against this defense. Here's a question for you. Now think of The Office when I say this. If I told you Marvin Jones was 3rd in the NFL in reception TDs, you would?
Poop my pants.
Yes. Very well played. Very well played. And he's also 11th in total receptions. He's totally outperforming what I projected for him in the preseason. And even at this point, I look at those numbers and I'm just kind of shocked. And in those games against those tough defenses, against Baltimore and Minnesota, combined for 10 catches, 199 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he's only had 1 game under double-digit points in his last 7. This stack is a little bit scary, but I'm a lot more comfortable in this one than I was in my stack last week that kind of hit the wall. I was due for a hit-the-wall stack. I'm bouncing back hard this week.
Yeah, I like it. I actually have Tampa Bay as the most points given up to wide receivers.
Nice, I like it.
Versus the pass, wide receivers are going to be a little bit different. Most points given up to wide receivers. I actually talk about a pass catcher against that Tampa Bay defense in this segment.
Cool.
Not going to say who.
Good. Do you have a stack this
Most
week?
people can probably guess it.
Do you have a stack you want to do?
Yes, I've got my sleeper stack. I decided I'm just going to be the bargain guy. I'm going to give a bargain guy at every position nowadays.
I like it.
My sleeper stack for the week is, and I always put this under my QB because this is always going to be a cheaper QB with a wide receiver matchup. So I'm going to sleeper stack. You're going to love this one, right? Get ready to do your cough. Hold on, I got the beer.
Yep, get it ready.
Okay, I got Brett Hundley, 6,900, and Devontae Adams, 6,900 at Cleveland. Number one, you've got 2 guys on the same team at 6,900, so you know that's a guaranteed good sign.
Yes.
2, they're playing against Cleveland, good sign. And 3, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers might be coming back the week before. The next week, team's all jacked up. They're going to go undefeated and make the playoffs. Maybe the perfect time to get a really motivated team with your top wide receiver and the quarterback in your lineup. Give me all of Brett Hundley and Devontae Adams at 6,900. Plus, Brett Hundley is starting to mix in the run. They're starting to mix in running the ball more with him. I don't know what took him so long to do that, but they did it finally. And that's adding to his points, getting those rushing yards, and he's running now out of the pocket a little bit more than he was. He was a little hesitant. Hamstring is healed. You got those extra points with him running. He could possibly run a touchdown. Devontae and him have a big week this week.
I'm not as anti this as you thought I was going to be, because I actually considered putting in Adams for a sleeper wide receiver, just because what we talked about last week. He's performing and he's still relatively cheap. Mm-hmm. I'm a little nervous. Cleveland's pass defense, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I just feel like they play a little bit better, though, than people give them credit for. They held Rivers to, 1 touchdown last week? I think Keenan Allen obviously still had a really good game, but just 1 touchdown that was from a passing touchdown. So I like Rivers obviously a lot better than Hundley, so it scares me a little bit. So that's my only hesitation with this. It's Cleveland's defense, I feel like, might be a little bit better.
It's the Cleveland Browns at 0-12 versus the Packers, who are really motivated to get their starting quarterback back.
Maybe Hundley doesn't want him back, though.
I don't think Hundley's going to be upset.
Probably not. Seen it coming. All right, my quarterback then. I have a quarterback question for you, actually.
All right, Whitey.
Who is your pick in the rematch between Alex Smith, who's going for 8,200, and Derek Carr, who's going for 7,700? In that meeting earlier this year, Carr put up 30, Smith put up 26. Oakland is 23rd versus the pass. Kansas City's 29th versus the pass. I don't know if you can really go wrong with either here, but if you're choosing between these two, which I think a lot of people will, who do you got?
Where are they playing?
I believe this one's in Kansas City.
This one's tough. I have to lean Alex Smith. Crabtree will be back. Cooper, he's probably still dead. I'm not going to say
he's in protocol, as last I heard.
Maybe he needs another week off. You've got two really bad defensive backfields, except the Raiders have been seeming to ramp it up a little bit. Kansas City's just bad defense in the defensive back. Also, isn't Marcus Peters out?
He's out this game as well for his grenade launch of that flag.
So that makes it a little more interesting still. Crabtree's a bitch, so they might get into his head again this week. I'm going to take Alex Smith after a huge league last week at home. Confidence building helps him out a little bit. I got to lead Alex Smith this week.
See, so do I. But I think you could do this, like if you wanted to splurge a little bit more, you could have extra $500 to maybe do so at a different position. And if you wanted to, like if you had Smith, realized you needed a little bit more, I think Carr's a good fallback plan. But yeah, if you want to go a little bit higher, I'd give Smith the nod over Carr this week as well. You said you already did your quarterback then?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts at running back this week?
I actually talked about two quarterbacks. I talked about one earlier, and Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, running back?
Yep.
Isaiah Crowell versus Green Bay, $5,500. Not a good week last week, but the week before he had one of his best weeks. Packers fifth most fantasy points given up to running backs. I expect Crowell to get carries early and often. Potentially Duke Johnson is going. He's a little more expensive, which I thought was wild. I thought that was really weird not being the lead back in this offense.
Duke is?
What?
Duke's more expensive?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I had to search down for Isaiah Crowell after passing Duke Johnson. But I like Isaiah Crowell in this game. I think he scores at least one game. They can still get their ass kicked because I have pumped up Green Bay. But I would think that if you did see him score, it'd be on one of the first couple of drives. So after that, I'm kind of counting on the first couple of drives.
You love...
Because
Go ahead.
Once they get out of that, like once they get past those first couple of drives and they start getting down, that's when they forget about Isaiah Crowell, it seems like, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, and you love this guy, and I feel like he's burned you too much, and I don't know that I've ever used Isaiah Crowell, and I don't think I've ever drafted him in even a redraft league. I'm so anti that team. They've won like 4 games in the last, 3 or 4 years? It's just a trash can team. I don't want anything to do with that team. So I'm a pass.
Coming from the Miami Dolphins fan.
Yep, I'm not using any Dolphins either.
Yeah, but every week during the first 10 weeks, you're like, this is the week that Jay Cutler is going to have a good one.
Slow learner. Slow learner, admittedly. I'm a self-proclaimed slow learner.
All right. I never said self-proclaimed.
I have another running back question for you. Is it a LaShawn McCoy week versus Indianapolis this week? He's $9,000, basically the most expensive guy on a Sunday-only slate.
I considered him, but how expensive he is, I don't think Indianapolis is that bad against the run. I think it's their pass defense that's really bad.
Yeah, I've got him 14th versus the run.
Yeah, so that's pretty decent. That's top half of the league.
Yep.
My math is correct. I told her it was beat, no math, but if my math is correct, that'd be it. So 9,000, way too much for him. Is he the number one running back this week?
Yeah, it's
in FanDuel, the highest paid or scoring or whatever price point.
Price point? Yeah, exactly. Well, you have the Saints playing on Thursday as well. So you got Kamara and Ingram that are both going to be not on that Sunday slate.
Them, though.
So, yeah, McCoy basically was the highest then at that point because Kamara is basically the most expensive now.
Yeah.
And McCoy is coming off back-to-back games around 10 points. And that was against the 29th and 31st ranked run defenses in terms of fantasy points allowed. You need more production than that from that expensive of a running back. So I'm with you. I am not going to touch McCoy this week, even though he is kind of that offense at this point. But my must-use of the week is either Dion Lewis at 6,500 or your boy, Sexy Rexy Burkhead.
Nebraska, baby! Go Big Red!
Oh, gosh.
Scott Frost.
Loser. Rex Burkhead, 6,400 at Miami Monday night. Both are bargains. They played the Dolphins 2 weeks ago. Lewis put up 12 points. Burkhead put up 18. You've got Dion Lewis, who's had double-digit carries in 7 straight games. You think about him as more of a pass catcher, but he's actually taken on that role of lead back. And then you've got Burkhead, who's had 2 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games and over 18 fantasy points in each. So I honestly don't know which one you'd rather use. But both are bargains, and I don't think you can go wrong with either. I think both of them are going to get double digits again.
Rex Burkhead, baby.
That's your guy? You take Rex over Lewis?
Yeah, he's scoring the touchdowns. We're getting the ball thrown to him. Belichick loves him, a nice white running back.
Yeah, he has been a touchdown machine the last couple of weeks, so it's hard to overcome that in fantasy.
And he's white.
And he's white. What do you got at wide? What do you got at wide receiver this week?
Wide receiver, I am going for Golden Tate.
There's your
Bargain
lion.
guy, $6,800 at Tampa Bay. Marvin's had a ton of good games in a row here. It's Golden Tate time. He's no sleeper. He's a good wide receiver. Eventually he's going to bust out, have a big game. This is it. Actually, I think I'm going to lock him in as my wide receiver pick for this week in your league. So I'm going to put that on the fucking board right now on this podcast. 174 yards for him.
Jeez.
And Tampa Bay has allowed the most points to wide receiver, as I said earlier. Give me all those.
Yeah, I can't argue it. If I'm going with Marvin Jones in my stack, we're just taking wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 1A at that point.
174 yards.
I like it. As long as Marvin Jones gets 175 in the touch, I'm good. Moving on to the next receiver, what's it going to take for DeAndre Hopkins to get less than 10 FanDuel points? Listen to this. He's $8,600 versus the 49ers. Give me 1 second here. I got to think.
You're thinking.
Okay, this is it. I'm trying to understand what I said here. I wrote this.
What is happening? You're like, stop.
Sorry, I kind of had like a mini stroke there.
Okay.
DeAndre Hopkins, this entire season, I apologize for my delay. He's had under double-digit fantasy points only one time, and he scored 9 points that game. So he's basically had double-digit points every single week. His streak of at least 70 receiving yards and a touchdown is still going. 12 games. Every single game this season, he's done one or the other. And he is straight up balling. Even with Tom Savage, the last 2 weeks, he's had 24 targets, 205 yards, and he's guaranteed to get the ball every single week. So I'm not really saying, like, are you using him or not? I'm just saying, aren't these numbers kind of just shocking, like just how good he's done with Savage?
I mean, I think they're just giving him a chance. I think that was Hopkins' problem last year, is that he wasn't getting a chance. And DeAndre Hopkins is so good. He's like the best pass interference guy, like offensive pass interference guy in the league, and he gets away with it so much that you give him the chance to go up and get a ball, he puts off a little bit, and he makes plays. Just give him a chance.
He does. He's so good. I want to see that guy with a full season of Deshaun Watson because it's just going to be nasty once we can finally do that. My bargain play here is Josh Gordon, $6,700 versus the Green Bay Packers. He had 11 targets last week, 4 catches, 85 yards last week versus the Chargers. Hayward, your old Packer friend, he went up against him for the Chargers last week. Said he was the best wide receiver he's faced this entire year. And you've got the Packers who are 26 versus the pass. I really think Gordon could be a good bargain. Do you have any thoughts on Josh Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin King just went on IR. I don't know if you know about that today.
Yep, saw that as well.
So I don't even know he's matching up against probably Devon fucking House. He's slow as shit. And Josh Gordon looks every good as what he looked when he when he left the league. So he's back and he's doing the thing again. They're going to throw the ball to him, give him some chances to make plays. They're 0-12. Why not throw him the ball a bunch? So, yeah, that's not a bad play at all.
Yeah, I really like it. At that price point, I know you love that phrase. At that price point, you can't go wrong. I feel like a lot of people are going to use him. One last wide receiver question before we move on. Any chance that you like Martavis Bryant at a bargain price of $5,800 versus the Ravens with Juju Smith-Schuster out, noting that, I just blanked on his name, their best cornerback being out for the year?
No.
I'm kind of the same way on that, and I will elaborate other than just saying no.
I don't like Martavis Bryant.
Yeah, the guy, I've had so much hype for him, he burned me. That's one of the causes where I was burned way too much. I'm not going back to it. I just can't do it, despite that matchup.
Yep.
What do you got for tight end?
Who do I have? I've got ASJ, also Safarian Jenkins, 5,900 at Denver. I've given you a lot of money to save. Not exactly an expensive player, but I guess he's up there in tight ends. I think he's in the top 5, 6, 7 in there. But Broncos give up the first most points to tight ends. ASJ, I think, will look to bounce back at this game, have a lot of chances to make some plays. I like Alson Jenkins.
What was his price again?
$5,900.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Cameron Brate is $5,400. He's going against Detroit.
Oh, you're on that train. Finally.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. Detroit really struggles against tight ends. Can he back up that 2-touchdown performance last week from Green Bay? I think he only had those 2 catches.
That was my guy, though, right?
That was your guy, and he lit it up.
Jameis is back. Yeah, so I got that one for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Jameis Winston's there, so he's his red zone target. Even if he's not open, he's going to throw it to him.
I was surprised to see that he was only $5,400, especially against, like, he comes back, he gets 2 touchdowns. He's going against Detroit, who's been terrible against tight ends. Just, I don't know, that one threw me off. That's why I really like Brate. Some other guys I'm considering, depending on maybe how much cash you have left, if you want to go expensive. Obviously, Travis Kelce's a great pick, $8,000 versus Oakland. Oakland really struggles against tight ends as well. If you're looking mid-range, I like Evan Ingram. He's $6,600 versus the Cowboys. And then, obviously, a cheap option, I really like Brate.
Jeez, you yelling at me for talking fast. I couldn't even keep up there.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I wanted to just get through those.
God damn it, my head's spinning right now.
Let's jump into some more fantasy football listener start-sit questions. We got Nelson Aguilar versus the Rams or Ted Ginn versus the Falcons. PPR, that's a Thursday night game.
I'm not going to trust Ted Ginn, and I'm not going to trust Thursday night. I'm going Aguilar. Had a big week this last week. Always a red zone target, always an option for touchdowns. I take Aguilar.
I am the same on this one.
Yeah, listen to me this time, people.
I really like, I don't know, like, I was talking on Twitter with a guy yesterday and about the Rams. Like, the way to get to the Rams is literally run the ball. The Rams are like bottom third in the NFL against the run. If you can pound it against them, you're going to have a huge advantage. And I think that's what the Eagles might try to do. But at the same point, I don't like Thursday night games. I really don't like Ted Ginn. He is always a chance for a big, long touchdown, but this is probably your playoffs. I think Aguilar has a better floor. And I also think he can boom. Like, he could go for, even if he goes for 70 and a touchdown, I mean, that's going to be plenty out of him, probably as a flex play. So I like him there.
Aguilar because he can catch a slant and take it to the fucking house because he is real fast.
Yeah, dude. Super underrated. Probably a really cheap DFS option again this week, too.
Yeah.
We have a flex question. Evan Ingram versus the Cowboys, D.D. Westbrook versus the Seahawks, or Peyton Barber versus the Lions?
I got to take Ingram here. I don't think that's really much of a choice here. Cowboys have a terrible secondary. Ingram's a fucking man. Eli's going to throw it to him. It's basically his only wide receiver. You have to go Ingram.
Yeah, I'm automatically, I think, ruling out Westbrook. I'm kind of anti-Jags offense, especially against Seattle. I kind of ripped on their defense the last couple of weeks, and then they shut me up playing well against the Eagles. So I don't really want to mess with that. So it came down to between Barber and Ingram for me. And I just like Ingram. The guy seems good for a touchdown every single week. I don't know if you're getting a PPR in this or not, but obviously Ingram would be a better choice in that version. Peyton Barber, we don't really know what we're getting. Yeah. He had one good game against the Packers, but how much do you want to look into that? You had your stat about the Packers struggling against running backs. So I don't think the Lions are great against running backs, but at the same token, he might not be a terrible play, but I'm with you. I'd probably go Ingram here.
Beautiful.
Do you have anything this week for Shit's Gotta Go?
Do you have anything that you want to go on?
I always have things, so...
I know, but you haven't said one for like 2 weeks.
That's fine. I don't feel like this is something we need to do every week. I just want to sprinkle it in as we go. So do you want to do one or no? Up to you.
You're such a bit. I don't get why you don't throw any of you. You're so excited about throwing some stuff out there.
I haven't
heard you say one for years.
I like to keep it fresh. I like to keep them. You got to keep them wanting more.
I don't know what that means. That people can't hear it.
They got to tune in next week when I bring one. I got some good ones left.
Well, I didn't use the one I was going to with that stutter this last week because I guess I was just too drunk. I don't know, but that's a good segue. Words for drunk, right? I don't like any other words in place of drunk. Like hammered, shit can, wasted, fucked up, inebriated. That's an actual good English word. Still don't like it. It's wasted. I haven't said that since college. It's really stupid. Drunk. I was drunk. I was fucking drunk. That's it. That's all you need to tell me.
See, I get your beef with this, but I don't know that it's got to go. Like, I don't think
it's got to go.
I don't think it's over the top that everyone's doing it. Where like, oh, I'm so sick of that.
You're
It's got to go.
just trying to sound so cool when you say something else.
Are you?
Yeah, I was fucking hammered last night.
I think it depends on how you enunciate the word. You'd be like, I was drunk. Like that's saying the same thing as I was hammered.
I was drunk last night. Like, don't. If you're gonna try to brag about it, you're trying to use a different word.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't really like say these things.
I don't know what you just said.
I don't know. I don't know if this fits the bill. Maybe for you. Everyone has their own
You can't
thing.
judge my shit's gotta go, bitch.
That's fine. That's your hashtag. Shit's gotta go. We can live with it. You may or may not get one from me next week. I'm gonna keep you on the edge of your seat.
God damn. If I don't, I'm just cutting this segment off.
I better bring one then.
Yeah.
Bold prediction, week 14.
Shit's gotta go. This shit's gotta go segment.
Nice. Well, you already got my bold prediction for week 14. Yep. So what do you got?
Rams hand the Eagles their third loss and second in a row as people fucking freak out about them and make predictions about them actually not being that good. They don't suck. They just play two good teams on the road. No worries.
Yeah, it's a somewhat bold prediction, I guess, considering how good the Eagles have been this year. The Rams have been really good too, though.
But the Eagles are, everybody's saying, the best team in the NFL, so freak it right out.
Well, I'm betting on the Eagles here, so I'm going to have to disagree. But one of us will be right. Yep. That's the good thing. One of us will finally be right.
Perfect.
Got anything else you'd like to add to the pod, or should we call it a day?
Call it a day.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. As always, tweet any questions that you'd have liked answered on the podcast on Twitter. @LoadedBox is where you can find us. Tune in Sunday evening for our Week 14 Instant Reactions pod. As always, find us on iTunes, search Loaded Box. Subscribe, rate, and review. You leave us a cool review, we will definitely read it on the podcast and make you famous. With that, why don't you send us out?